Well, I've changed the angle of where I'm sitting just to make it look like a totally new video at a totally different time. And I've also made some coffee. So, yeah, so what I also wanted to talk about was actual sleds now. So I've done, as a lot of you know that have watched prior videos, like I'm really into this new 600 EFI motor that BRP or Skidoos come out with for their sport lineup, and I've learned more about it since my other videos. The first video I did on the 600 itself was at camp, and it was literally, you know, like hours after the thing was announced, and I had very spotty internet connection, and I didn't actually upload those videos at camp. I actually had to come into town to get a better cell signal, like a 4G at least, and then wait there in the lake till the video's uploaded. So, whereas right now I'm good. I can upload really quick. So, yeah. So the 600 EFI. So just to recap, it is based off of the 600R E-Tech, the current 600 E-Tech motor. So it's got basically the same bottom end crank, bore and stroke of that motor. I'm pretty sure it's got the same general like cylinder makeup. So it's plasma coated, and the only thing that's different is the casting. There's no exhaust valves, so no E-rave system, and the head is different. It's just there's no E-Tech injector holes there, so there's no provision to put an E-Tech injector on. It's just a spark plug, and that's it. So the interesting thing that I did find out was that, and this is kind of very smart, I guess, is to build that motor, they pulled the throttle bodies off of the 850 with the booster injectors. So the 600 EFI is actually a 600R E-Tech with different heads and cylinders with an 850 throttle body and the booster injectors of an 850 on there. And that's what gives you your 85 horsepower EFI system. So that's kind of cool. And so now I'm sort of thinking that it's using a Bosch CPU or a Bosch ECM. And that's a fairly common like series of engine management. Bosch is very, like Bosch and Siemens, you know, are really well-known engine management systems, and Skidoos use both of them. And there's a bunch more, but Bosch is fairly well known. So I still don't know the electronics package on that sled. I don't know if it uses, like I said, a mass airflow sensor or a manifold absolute pressure sensor, or if it does any kind of dynamic fuel trimming, you know, like a sophisticated EFI is. I don't know if it has a NOx sensor or not, although I would think it would have a NOx sensor. And then definitely a throttle position sensor it'll have. So still not too many things to worry about. This type of EFI system has been basically around for like since the 80s. So how it works and how to tune it and the methodology to like attack the motor and get more horsepower out of it, and that's all well established. So yeah, so I'm trying to figure out though, you know, the porting on it. I understand it's RPM limited, and I don't know if that's electronically or if it's through clutching that's RPM limited, or both. I mean, obviously clutching, but I don't know if there's like an electronic RPM limiter on it that Skidoos put on there to kind of subvert people trying to spin it faster and get more horsepower out of it. I suspect that'll be, regardless, that'll be defeated very soon once tuners get their hands on it. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm wondering, you know, putting bigger injectors in it to get more horsepower. I think that would be easily done because you can set, you know, in the computer, definitely there'll be injector sizes, and there'll be a rough fuel trim for, you know, as injectors get older and, you know, they clog up or something like that, the computer will adjust the fuel trim to give either more pulse width to get the same amount of fuel in. It's just a safety mechanism to account for variances. So that's in there, and I'm sure programming the size of the injector that's installed is also in there, or else the computer doesn't really know how much fuel, like what the fuel pressure and how much pulse width or duration to actually give. So it needs to know the size of the injector. So those can be changed, I'm sure, and that would give you more options for coaxing more horsepower out of it. You might suffer a bit on the low end. With a bigger injector, you have, you know, better top end flow and less chance of the injector going static. On the low end, it'll suffer because you have less control over the fine fuel control. So that's a bit of a drawback. But, you know, I'm sure there's headroom in the existing injectors, and I'm sure if you had to go up one size, you're probably not going to suffer too much with, you know, like low throttle inputs and stuff like that. So that can be that'll be pretty interesting. So my plans right now, and I guess I'll preface this with saying I've got my plans right now are actually my plans for like in a year. So when the 2022s are coming out, I'm very serious about trying to swing ordering a 2022 sport model with that 600 motor. And I think I'd probably go for a Renegade sport model. I think it's kind of the best of both worlds with the groomed trails we have here, and the taller gearing of the Renegade would be a bit better on gas and have a little bit more top speed if you needed that. And then there's just enough track that when I go back to Scriber to ride, I'll have enough, you know, flotation to go farting around in the soft snow and play in the lakes a bit. And then the gas mileage of that motor is quite, like 18 miles per gallon is pretty good. And I'm willing to bet you can coax a bit more out of it, depending on how you ride and maybe a bit in the tuning. Once, you know, I'm sure the motor's going to be run rich just for safety at first. And once tuners get their hands on them, there's probably going to be some tuning that'll clean that up a little bit. And it all depends if it's, you know, how tight the temperature compensation or density compensation is on it for like air temperature and altitude and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I'd like to do. I would like to do that. I think it's fairly cheap. I think I could save up enough money to put a pretty good down payment on it. And, you know, if I don't sell my sled this year, maybe I'll sell it during the summer and the fall or whatever. That's fine. And, but the main thing is, like, I do have to talk to my wife about this and, you know, like, cause and I know a lot of guys are like, oh, I have to ask permission to your wife. Well, my wife and I are a team. You know, we do everything, we decide everything together. We make financial decisions together. It's not my money and her money. It's our money. And that's how we've always done things. And so we don't jump into a financial decision without us both discussing it and, you know, both being okay with it. And so that's just how things work with us. And you know, it's I think how things should work with people, but you know, this is my life. It's not your life's your life, my life's my life. So yeah, I do have to make sure that my wife is okay with the plan and that it's feasible, because we have a lot of financial plans that we're doing, like thinking for retirement and extra money stowed away here and there, and thinking about depreciation in our vehicles and projects in our house, and you know, so there's a lot of stuff on the go. So if I do get a sled, a new one, it has to be one that brings a lot to the table for the money. And you know, a lot of people are like, oh, well, and I'm a type that'll keep a sled for like 7 years, you know, and try to get the most out of it. And if I really love it, I'll rebuild the whole damn thing and keep another 7 years. Like, that's just how I am. I don't get tired of sleds quickly. And like one of the only reasons I was selling the F3 was to kind of help bankroll a new sled. But if I'm not going to do it until next year, I'm not going to buy that. I was talking about buying a 2014 backcountry 600 E-Tech for my family this summer, but I don't. That's probably not going to be realistic with you know, right now. So I think maybe ordering a new one next like this time next year would be better for me. And it's going to be a sport model, and it's going to have that 85 horsepower 600 EFI in it. And honestly, the only things I would do to that 600 is like the options I would get on it would be the adjustable windshield from low to mid, the tunnel reinforcements, the front skid plate, a gas caddy. That's pretty much it. And then I understand that it has a like fairly low tech brake on it. So maybe at some point I'd upgrade the brake to the, I guess, normal brakes that all the other sleds have. But I mean, I don't know. Well, I'll see how that brake is. It's might just be fine. And then, you know, I'd drive it like that for a year, and then the next summer I'd put the durability modifications into it. Mainway bushings all throughout the rear suspension, so that I don't have to replace bushings ever again. I just keep things greased and it'll last. Putting the mainway bushings in the front suspension, because those wear out really, like, I find they wear out really quickly. Those plastic junky bushings that come stock. So mainway bushings in the front, like, for sure. A grip and rip brace kit for the front. And that's about it. And if high gear, like suspension, comes out with the Slycast upper A-arm with the adjustable caster and shimmable camber adjustments for the Raz 3 in the like whatever the Renegade is, I think it's the same. I think it's a trail front end. Then I would really look into that. Like if I still find the G4s like really twitchy and like dirty in the Renegade configuration with the trail front end, then I think like that would be a good adjustment, like pulling the caster, like having positive caster 2 degrees would lay the spindle back a bit. I think that would really clean up some of that handling and just like rake it out a bit more, and sort of tone that down a bit or attenuate some of that, you know, like that darty, twitchy feeling of being so forward. Yeah, and I'm kind of really serious about that. Like, I was trying to do the math in terms of I did the math in terms of the top speed. You know, the Tundras are a sport. This is all the 600 EFI motor. The Tundras and Expeditions and Scanics are all geared for like 100 kilometers an hour at 1-to-1 gear ratio. So they're geared like super low, which makes sense. They got that huge track spinning out back. The MXZ, so the shortest track version, 129 inch track in that motor, is geared for 86 miles an hour, like at 1-to-1. That's pretty awesome. Like, I don't know if it can get there. I'm thinking it can get pretty close, like at least 80. The Renegade, the spec sheet didn't work right, so I couldn't see the gearing, but it's got to be between the backcountry and the MXZ, so I'm guessing it's 2 gears or 2 teeth lower, or the equivalent of 2 teeth lower on the top gear, which would bring it to about 80 miles an hour for the Renegade, or very close to 80 miles an hour at a 1-to-1 drive ratio. So like, that's exciting. That's anything over 70 is more than I need. Like, like I rarely go over 100 clicks an hour. On the lake I might hit 110, and that's even with an 850. Like I don't, you know, I've been 170 kilometers an hour on my F3 plus like 2 times exactly. I have no desire to go that fast again. It's no point. I like seeing the scenery. I like being out there is part of the experience for me. But I did the math in terms of the gas mileage too, and everybody's like, "Oh, you should go like get an E-Tech because it's got 3 more miles per gallon better." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's like $3,000 or $4,000 more, and it's a complicated motor. An EFI motor with no exhaust valves is easy to fix. If that thing blows up, I could fix that myself, no problem. I could fix an E-Tech myself, but a lot of the computer stuff I can't do. I don't have a CanDo Pro, and dealers are 2 hours away each direction, so it's not really feasible. I'd rather just get a simple EFI motor, and that's good. And I want a 2-stroke. I don't really want a 4-stroke quite yet. I mean, they're great motors, and the 900's a really nice motor. Even the 600, that thing's a stump puller. Oh my god, I can't believe the torque that thing has. Like it's got nothing for top end, but it'll flirt with 70 miles an hour on a 60 horsepower motor. Like that's pretty awesome, and it's quiet. It's like freaky quiet. So, but I do like the 2-stroke. I'm still kind of a 2-stroke guy, even though I know the future for speed and all that is 4-stroke 100%. But the 600 like EFI, it just has a nostalgic sound to it. I find the E-Tech motors sound very dead. They sound very like they had lobotomies, they just kind of drone on and have no life to them whatsoever. And not like a carbed motor. Like that's the one thing about carbed motors, just that, I don't know, that kind of lumpy-ish idle that they have, and the booming of like when the fuel gets in the pipe a little bit, and you get the small little pops and explosions of fuel in the pipe. I don't know, there's just something about that I really like. And this motor kind of has that. It's cleaner. It's a little more cleaner sounding than of the clips I've heard than a normal carbed motor, but it operates in the same principle, and and I really just love that. I just love that sound. It just brings back a lot of memories, and I don't know, I just like that. So that's kind of a bit of a selling feature to me. I know it's kind of a stupid thing to be hung up on, or a stupid thing to like factor in, but I mean, why do guys like triples? Have you heard of triple? Holy frig! Like, I should do a clip with mine actually running, because I just realized all the clips I have is just sitting there, and But anyway, I don't know. It just looks like such a neat sled, and it's simple, cheap to operate. I'm sure the belts aren't $300 a piece. The chassis that it's in is built for an 850. And if it can handle an 850 and not twist itself into a pretzel, then it sure as heck can handle an 85 horsepower, 600. So, like, the chassis is a Sherman tank for that motor. So I think it's just going to be a really dependable, comfortable, fun sled. And, and I'm sure I could just, drive the skis off the thing when I really want to. And it's going to be really fun to be able to, like, wind it out. And, as opposed to the 850, where it's almost like you'd be scared to wind that thing out, of going off the trail and not being able to stop in time, and it's so light. Like that 600 is so light. Like you look at the weights differences, it's crazy. So, you're getting a sled that's so much easier to handle too, even from an E-Tech. Like E-Techs those motors are heavy. They're not light motors. They're heavy motors. Those friggin' injectors are, like, they're not light injectors. If you ever held one in your hand, there's a lot of weight to those things. And yeah, so I think that's what I want to do. That's my tentative plan. And if I never sell the F3 and I have to keep it, then that's fine. Crystal and I can go out together and She can drive the F3 or I can drive the F3. It doesn't matter to me, as long as I'm out there. And then, yeah, and like explore our area here a bit more. You know, like they do like all day rides to different towns and stuff on the Groom trails here, and have lunch and all that. And it looks like a lot of fun, something I'd enjoy. I haven't been on one of those rides yet, but I think I'm going to, if this happens for me. Anyway, so I'm 20 minutes now, and I think I'm going to stop it there. And anyways, you guys have a good night. And next thing that hits my mind, I'll make a video about it when it comes to sledding. Everybody have a great night, and hope winter's going well.